Here we go. Okay, in this video, hello folks, welcome to our members meetup this Friday afternoon. It's fantastic to be back again. And in this video, we're going to let you know about a fantastic research opportunity that we think you might like to get involved in. We are going to spotlight another teacher doing some fantastic things with their Smart School Council. And then thirdly, so three things as normal. We're going to bring you up to speed with our home debate club and what's happening with that. But before we get into all of those things, if we've never met before, and hopefully we have, my name is Sam Evans. I am head of programs at Smart School Councils, and I'm going to introduce you to the rest of the what I'm now calling panel. So let's go over to you, Greg, and then we'll go around and introduce ourselves to everybody that's watching.
Hi everyone, my name is Greg. I'm one of the founders at Smart School Councils. Nice to see you. And we've got our busiest members meetup today with 5 people on screen. So thank you for everybody for joining us. I'm really happy to see you all.
Cool. Let's go.
Hi,
Yeah, go on. Fantastic. Keep going.
Hi, I'm Sarah Jane Hassan, primary school teacher in Westland.
Let's hear from Laurie then. Laurie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Laurie Goodyear. I'm a Year 6 teacher in a primary school in Dagenham in Essex.
Brilliant. And over to you, Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe McGinn. I am the head of school partnerships at a non-profit called Impact Ed, and you'll hear a little bit more about that very shortly.
Cool. Thanks, guys. I promise that we'll get slicker at this as we go forward. That is my promise to all of you. But great, that's who we're talking to this afternoon. But we want to know who's out there, who's watching, who's with us today. So yeah, we've had a couple of comments from Devinder. Devinder, it was great to have you on with us a couple of weeks ago. Nice to see you with us. And Helen, great supporter of everything we're doing. Nice to see you too. So when we were talking about what we'd like to ask you to see if you're out there today, Greg decided that he really wants to know, he's curious about how many people wear slippers when they're working from home. You think it's the great question of our time, Greg, don't you?
It's the big one. It's the question on everybody's lips. I've recently discovered slippers, so I've become a very big fan. So if you wear slippers, please either put your hand up or tell us in the comments box that you're wearing slippers right now.
Yeah, we want to do a quick poll and we'll keep a tally of it. So please comment and tell us if you are or are not wearing slippers. I have never worn a pair in my life and find it quite odd, to be honest. But anyway, we've got Joe and Greg there anyway. So let's see if anybody else out there is wearing slippers and that you can provide some solidarity to grow in Joe and Greg. Emma Taylor, yeah, that's what normal people do. They wear shoes. I'm with you. But okay, she's not with me. That's fine. But yeah, keep those comments coming in, guys. We're going to keep a tally of that, and also do let us know how you've been getting on this week. Each week we ask you on a scale of 1 to 5 how your week has gone and how the provision for home learning is going. So send us in your scale of how you've got on this week. People on the panel, do you want to share how your week has been? Maybe Joe, tell us what you've been up to this week.
Well, what an exciting week. Well, we've been developing the sort of research project, which I'll chat to in a little bit. And then kind of every day, me and my colleagues at 4:30, we have a bit of a hangout where we just go through professional and personal highlights. And typically people's personal highlights just revolve around what they're having for dinner or what they've had for lunch. So it's been an interesting sort of cooking and baking season. And yeah, that's sort of my highlights of the week so far.
Nice, that's fun, and that sounds really fun. Mine would definitely be around my walk to and from the office every single day, for sure. Sarah Jane, how have you been getting on this week? How's your week been?
Yeah, working from home still. It's been busy looking at things like risk assessments for trying to get into place some things if we go back in June and what's going to happen. And yeah, the usual kind of Zoom meetings and things. Busy week.
That's it. What are your emotions like on Zoom at the moment? Are you a Zoom fan or a Zoom skeptic?
I think it's great for professionals. I wouldn't like to have some kind of thing where we're trying to teach over it. I think there's too many variables that we're not sure about, and safeguarding issues just are a little bit too high, I think.
Cool. Yeah, no, I think that makes absolute sense. I recognize that feeling completely. All right, good. Thanks, guys. Let's move on because we've got a lot to cover today, and we're going to Greg, you're keeping an eye on the comments, aren't you? So you're going to update us with what people are saying.
What about Laurie? We need to ask Laurie how her week's been.
Oh, sorry, Laurie. Please.
I know, feeling left out there.
Oh, man.
I know, terrible. I have been homeschooling my own 5 children and trying to work from home, but also launching the home debate with my own year 6 children this week, which has been really good. I've had quite a few emails from children since that happened and from parents. We've got a year 6 email, so all the year 6 teachers can respond to parents on it. So I had one this morning from one of the girls apologising for not doing it because she was ill on the day. So she was worried that she hadn't managed to do it. But so I had some really positive feedback on that, which has been nice. It's the sort of almost the first positive feedback we've had from lots of our home learning. So it's been really good.
Oh, cool. That's amazing. And we're definitely going to get into that as we go on in the meetup today. So thanks for sharing that with us, Laurie. And then I'm being terribly rude today. I also haven't asked you how your week, Greg, was. How was your week?
Good, thank you. Yeah, we've been trying to change with my 6-year-old niece at the moment. We've been trying to change her morning routine so she gets the idea that she should be doing a bit more learning. So and we've managed that with some success.
My doorbell's
this week,
just gone. Give me one sec.
Don't worry, Laurie. So yeah, morning routine's going well, and yeah, it's been a good week with Home Debate Club and the trials that we've been doing. So yeah, feeling good.
Cool, great. All right, well, let's get into the meat of what we're doing then on our meetup today. So we're going to go into the first thing we want to ask your views on and get you to comment on with us, which is why Joe is here to talk about some of this really interesting research that Impact Ed are getting into. So I'm going to hand over to Greg and to Joe, and I think Greg's going to ask you some questions. So off you go, guys.
Great.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Greg.
Yeah, so I guess it would be just good to understand a bit more about, or could you just tell us a little bit about kind of who Impact Ed are? They're an organisation that Sam and I really like and value. So it'd be good to hear a bit more about kind of just generally what Impact Ed do, and also specifically about the research that you're focusing on at the moment.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, guys. So Impact Ed, we're still quite a young organisation. We've been around for less than 2 years. And essentially what we do is we partner with schools and other non-profit educational organisations, universities, charities, any kind of organisation that's trying to do educational work or work with young people. And we essentially work with them to help them better understand, evaluate and improve the impact of all the different things that they're doing. So, for example, in a school context, one of the most common pieces of work that we do are comprehensive schools will want to figure out where the real impact of their pupil premium spend, for example, is going. So they get X amount of money on pupil premium spend and they're not sure if it's having the desired impact that they want. So we'll partner with them to help them sort of measure outcomes and essentially assess whether it's having the impact that they want. So that's kind of one example. A lot of schools will bring in additional mentoring or tutoring programs and are not 100% sure if it's having the impact on either the academic or the non-cognitive skills that they're after. So things like well-being, metacognition, self-efficacy, all the indicators that are really important for the development of a child, but aren't necessarily academic and sort of attainment related. So like every other organization, we've been impacted quite massively by COVID and school closures. So instead of measuring the impact of a lot of essentially in-school provision, which is now no longer happening, and we've sort of pivoted really quickly, and we're helping schools to better understand the well-being and learning needs of their pupils, particularly whilst they're not coming into school. So this period is obviously a really super challenging period for everybody involved in education, but these sorts of periods also provide a really good opportunity to learn, and we're going through one of if not the largest natural experiment in our education system for about 100 years. And it presents us with a really good opportunity to learn about what impact this is having on different demographics of people. And that's essentially what we're partnering with schools to do over the next few months.
Great, amazing, thank you. It's good to have you on. And like I said, Impact Ed, an organisation that's helped us a lot out over the last kind of year or two. So it's good to hear more. And specifically with the kind of research that you're looking at, How does that work, and how can schools get involved if they're interested?
So very practically, we have a digital platform which allows schools to basically send out questionnaires and surveys to their pupils to assess on a variety of different things. So on this particular research project, and we've partnered with the University of York on this, who will be helping sort of disseminate the findings and doing further analysis. The key things we're really looking at are well-being, and then potentially grit and metacognition. They're sort of the three key skills which the literature says will be really important to sort of learn from in this period. And then also we're allowing schools to ask more detailed questions that are specific to their context. So things like, you know, how many devices do you have in your house? Do you have access to the device when you need to complete your work? How many hours sleep are you getting? And sort of more sort of context-specific questions that will be unique to that school as well. Very practically, if a school wants to get involved, we'll put a link somewhere on here to our expression of interest form, and then we'll give you a quick call to tell you a bit about the project. It's free of charge for schools to take part in the research project, and the only requirement is just to decide which pupils you want to take part. So some schools are getting their whole student body involved. Some are just doing specific target year groups. It really just depends on your capacity. And then the only requirement is for you to basically be able to get a unique URL code, which will be something like impacted.org.uk/St Saviour's or /St Paul's, or whatever your school name is. And then a pupil just puts in their first name and then a 5-digit code, which is unique to them and remains the same. And then the questions just pop up and they just click through and answer. And then teachers get access to those results in real time. So one school we're working with, they looked at the results from the wellbeing survey, and we're getting schools to complete this on a regular fortnightly basis. And they noticed over 2 to 3 fillings out of the survey that there was one pupil who was really struggling with their well-being, and it's something that, you know, that's the kind of assessment that a teacher would just do in class physically. They would just do the sort of basic safeguarding checks that go with being in a school setting, which they can't do anymore. So we're trying to sort of replace that in the best way that we can. And one school has actually taken action and addressed this issue the results of these surveys have found. So we're seeing some really positive sort of, you know, action and results from it so far. And there's 2 key things. One is we're trying to learn large scale what is the big impact that this period of closure is having on young people in the education system. But more specifically, we want schools to be able to use these results in this data in real time to identify pupils who are struggling, pupils who might have additional needs that aren't really getting spotted at the moment because obviously the teachers aren't seeing them face to face.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So it's not just something that's useful to build this important research base across the UK, but also something that schools can practically use to support their parents and teachers and students.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got quite a large national database of pupils who have completed these surveys already, broken down by key stage. So again, for example, if a school looked at one particular pupil and they were scoring, you know, 2 or 20% lower than the national average consistently, then again that prompts the schools, you know, it doesn't tell a complete picture, but it can obviously prompt a teacher or a school leader to look into certain things. So yeah, there's a big picture and there's a big kind of national landscape that we're trying to really learn about here, but also there's real practical use for these results in a local school setting.
Great. Okay, that's amazing. Yeah, thanks very much, Joe, for coming on to tell us about it. Has anyone else got any questions they'd like to ask?
That's a good point. I mean, I might jump in if that's okay. I mean, it sounds extremely valuable. I think that, you know, in the absence of teachers and schools having that face-to-face interaction with the young people, I think something like this is hugely important. I was just going to ask really quickly, Joe, what the sort of link was between metacognition and sort of the coronavirus period. Why was that something that you guys sort of wanted to focus on?
Well, we took guidance from teachers, and we have a list of 13 academically validated measures that are kind of in the educational literature, and just feedback from partner teachers of ours. They essentially guided us that grit, metacognition, and well-being were the ones that were sort of really quite important. So grit, obviously, perseverance. You know, children might be kind of low in motivation during this period, and metacognition, I think, is really, really important because how children are learning during this period is obviously very different. So the ability for, I don't want to patronize people, obviously metacognition is the ability to, think about thinking, to understand why you think in a certain way, how you learn in a certain way. And for pupils to be able to do that and to improve their metacognitive ability during this kind of challenging time is, will really ensure that schools are kind of capturing who's learning well during this remote learning period and who needs a bit more support.
Amazing. Yeah, I would. That sounds really good, and I would definitely encourage schools who are out there and our members to consider whether they want to sort of get involved, because I think it's a really worthwhile thing that you guys are up to. So thanks. Yeah, thanks, Joe. We don't want to keep you too long, so I know we've got a busy afternoon, but thanks very much for joining us on our meetup today and letting us know about this amazing opportunity. Hopefully that you'll get some Smart School Council's members who want to get involved.
Fantastic. And yeah, thanks for the invite, guys. And yeah, if you go to impacted.org.uk, we've got a COVID-19 page, which just has all the details, probably in less butchered style than I just gave now. So feel free to take a look.
Cool.
Yeah,
we'll
posted your
Yeah, definitely. We'll encourage people to do that. Thanks, Joe. And yeah, thanks very much for coming along and spending your time with us this afternoon.
No problem. Thanks for the invite. Cheers, guys. Have a good afternoon.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cool. Well, hopefully you found that useful, folks. And yeah, like we were saying, we'd encourage you to take a look into it if it's something you think you will benefit your school. And yeah, Devinda, yeah, please feel free to check it out. And I think it could be something really valuable. So, bit of a gear shift then. Away from what are some really interesting thoughts around what's happening during the pandemic, to put our focus back for a couple of moments onto Smart School Councils itself. And we are sort of doing continuing our segment where we highlight a member and what they're up to or what they've been up to in the last academic year. We had Nicola Knowles from Loretto High School last week talking about their inspection and how pupil voice and Smart School Councils came through in that. This week, we're joined by Laurie, who is in charge of Smart School Council in Richard Allabun Primary School in Dagenham, which is a school very close to Greg and I's heart for many, many reasons. One of which is that there are some adorable young people who gave me a really hard time when we went to film there and wouldn't accept any of my leading questions. So, Laurie, it's great to have you on. I think we're going to just sort of ask you to share some of your experiences as one of our sort of experts teachers. But why don't you set the scene for us first, just to tell us a little bit about how long you've been members for and how you've sort of, your sort of bit about your Smart School Council's journey.
Yeah, hi, thank you for inviting me along. So we are in our third year now. So this is my third communication team and Smart School Council running of in the third year. So we started 2016, 17, not right at the beginning of the autumn term. I came on the train in the July before, and then it took me sort of a whole term really to get my head around it all and get it up and running. So I think we launched it in the January of 2017 and just went from there really. I think you filmed in 2017, so I think you filmed our first comms team. I think it might have been that long ago actually. But, and it's just gone from strength to strength really. As a school, everyone embraces it. Everyone really enjoys it, looks forward to it. We run our meetings once a week, so it's embedded in the curriculum. So everyone can choose the time they do it during the week once the comms team has met and set the question. But it has to be done by the Friday, and then the results are out and announced in assembly the following Monday. This year's been much better in terms of the questions that we've had. We've had lots more questions from the senior management team, the teachers. The PTA have really come on board this year after a few problems with events clashing and action teams raising money for different things that they were raising from. But now a member of the PTA comes to every communication team meeting once a week to keep up to date with what they're doing. And they've set some questions for the school, which has been really good. So it's definitely much more cohesive now, I'd say, this year. That's been a real positive this year. And it's considered a really big privilege to be on the communication team in our school. It's something that, you know, lots of children want to do and want to be part of, but because in the meetings everyone gets to take part, they sort of know, even if they're not on the comms team, because we only take children from year 5 and 6 on the comms team, that they will still get an opportunity to either run an action team or just to participate in the class council meetings. So nice. We just, I'm sure, as you can tell, we just love it in our school. It's a real, we see it as a real strength of our school and a real positive, and really feel like we are sort of achieving that pupil voice criteria. You know, we're listening to the children, we respond to what they say, and they see it in action. So they vote on something and we try within half a term to action whatever they voted on. So
nice.
Yeah, we're just very proud of our Smart School Council, as I'm sure you can tell.
I think that sense is definitely being transferred to our members out there, and I'm sure people outside watching are getting the sense of why it is we came to film in your school in the first place, Laurie. But yeah, that was fantastic. So one of the things you mentioned in there is one of the questions. What we're going to do is ask Laurie some questions, I think, about elements of running a Smart School Council that may be useful for you to talk about and for people to learn from, particularly all sorts of questions that Greg and I get quite a lot when we're supporting our teachers. So the first question is a bit to do with some of the things you mentioned, Laurie, around the communications team. So my question is, like, what are the key ingredients from your experience of having a really successful communications team?
So the first thing is they have to want to be there. So it's something, so we run hours that they apply for the job. So they fill out, they write, it's not an application form as such, they write me a letter sort of saying why they think they'd be good. And then last year's communication team interview the children that would like to do it next year. And then normally at this time of year, we would have started training them up. So for the last half term or term, so from after half term, they would come along to meetings and be trained up. It's just that desire, I think, in the children to want to make a difference and be in charge. They love the thing they all share is that they love what they feel is the ability to tell teachers what to do, and to be able to go to the head teacher and say, this is what we've decided. So because they meet with him once a week, they go and find him and fill him in on what's been going on in the meeting, so he's up to date. Yeah, so I think it's that sense of power that they get from it. And even so, we have a really wide range in our communication teams, you know, from children with additional needs to really confident children, you know, children who are in your higher sets to children who aren't necessarily achieving academically but are very articulate or have skills in organisation that don't necessarily transfer themselves to paper, but they're sort of real doers. So I think it gives those children that don't necessarily achieve in the standard way of the way they're assessed, but it really does build their abilities for moving on to secondary school, particularly those year 6 children. And lots of our children who have been on the Smart School Council are now on the school council in secondary school, so they are transferring it with them, which has been really lovely to see.
That's cool. I bet you, Greg, and I could probably name some of those, but I'm not going to put you on the spot, Greg, so don't worry. But yeah, no, I think that's really interesting, because I think that one of the things that is an initial challenge with the communications team is that transition between having an elected school council and the conceptual framework that is, I'm here to represent other people. But then with the comms team, having a set of young people who know and have the skills to make sure that they are involving everybody else. And so I guess that's your top tip, isn't it? It's about making sure that your comms team is staffed, so to speak, by the young people who, because everybody's getting a say, it's not a representation anymore, but the ones who are going to be motivated and passionate to get everybody else involved.
Yeah, the other thing I'd say is because there's such a range of jobs in the comms team. So you've got your class tool meeting leader. I can't even remember what they're called now. What are they called? The class tool. It's a really long name. Anyway, the ones that input all the data, obviously they're the ones that are confident on the computer. Then you've got the children who do the assembly feedback. So for my school, they're standing up in front of over 400 children every Monday morning. But then you've got the ones who are perhaps less confident that might be writing the newsletter as a pair. Lots of our teams are pairs, so they've got sort of a support in each other. And then you've got the ones that might be the ones who just support other children in action teams. So they don't necessarily need to be confident enough to stand up in front of lots of people or articulate enough to speak, you know, in front of a group, but they can support because they're just kind and caring and have got good ideas. So I think matching the child with the job. So I try wherever possible to let them choose what job they do. There are some jobs that are more popular than others. So they feel that they have to give me their top 3, and I try and make sure they get one of their top 3 when they do the job.
That's very diplomatic. I like that. Just get a big comment out there. So if you've got any questions about the comms team or any part of the Smart School Councils, please put them in and let us know so that we can pose them to Laurie and Sarah Jane as well about sort of any advice you think you might like to ask for. But yeah, please do let us know. That's really good. Laurie, let's change track a little bit. You have talked in the past about how one of the things you guys have tried to work on the most are your action teams, because that was the area that you were finding harder to implement. How's that been sort of this year, but pre-coronavirus?
Pre-coronavirus, again, better this year than it had been in previous years. I think we introduced about a year ago sort of a criteria of creating an action team, because one of the issues we had was we had lots of ideas, but 75% of them just weren't actionable within a school. You know, so action teams who wanted to raise money for having AstroTurf and a full-size football pitch when we're in the middle of a council estate that has no space at all, you know. So sort of giving the children, we've run a couple of assemblies on sensible ideas for action teams, you know, what can and can't be done within the confines of a school and in the confines of money, because obviously, you know, getting the children to understand that lots of their brilliant ideas can take a bit of money. So it was trying to move them away from fundraising and buying things for the school into how can we improve your learning, how can we make the school a happier place, how can we, you know, improve relationships, rather than just raising money to buy stuff for the playground, which we still do. There's nothing wrong with that, so we still do that, but it was trying to get a better mix of action teams was our aim this year, and trying to get the very youngest children involved. So we go from year 1, we don't do it with reception children, although they do get the newsletter from the school council, so that does go home to nursery and reception, so the parents are aware of it, but the children don't do the meetings in reception, just because of how the curriculum is a bit different. So we've had more action teams that have involved older children and younger children, sort of where the older children are mentoring the younger children into running a team. So that's been really successful.
Nice. That's really good. So it's a lot of it, I guess, is from what you've said, is about sort of modeling and managing and making sure that the sort of the right way of engaging in those action teams is really well understood. That sounds really interesting. Got a couple of questions. I think we'll ask them to both you, Laurie and Sarah Jane, if that's okay. But we'll start with Laurie first. Emma Tyler wants to know how many children are in your comms team.
Well, we have quite a few in ours. I think possibly more than your recommended amount, just because I find it really hard to say no when children want to join. I don't want to let them down, so I find a job for them. I think we have 21 in our communication team at the moment, but I've just before we broke up, I still had children coming saying, if I write you a letter, please can I join now, which I don't tend to let them do halfway through the year, but you know, encourage them to perhaps join the next year, or, you know, help someone out on an action team rather than join the comms team. So I think it's 21, I think.
Interesting. And of course, then they work in pairs, don't they? So you've got sort of
pairs, or for some teams, there are 3 of them. So
cool.
Yeah, pairs or threes. No one does it alone in our comms team.
Okay, that's cool. Sarah Jane, do you mind if I bring you in at this point as well? And if you can answer that question for Emma Tyler too.
Yeah, I think I'm the sort of same. I'm more on the larger side. So we've got anything between 8 and 16, depending on what's going on at the time, depending on how many action teams we've got running. Sometimes we need more people in the comms team just to help with that. And again, I can't say no when they do come along and they want to participate. And when I see that they can, then absolutely give them a chance.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's not about discouraging anybody, is it? That would be the absolute sort of worst iteration of pupil voice. But it's about sort of, I guess, putting it in the right form, and that makes absolute sense. Thank you very much, Emma, for your question. Cool. Well, I think those were the major things I wanted to cover. Greg, was there anything you wanted to ask?
Just to ask Laurie if she would come. Well, you're here. I can ask you. Hi, Laurie. Could you come and help us deliver some of our CPD online over the summer term at some point to talk about your amazing comms team, because it's one of the best that we've seen, and I'd love to go a bit deeper into how you've managed to hand so much of it over, and I think part of that is really it takes time, and I think I'd love to explore that a little bit more. So would you be up for that?
That would be cool. And also, I just thought what the other better thing was this year for the action teams was we've had much more other teacher involvement from other teachers in the school this year, as well as doing the class meetings. So I'm the teacher who helps on the Smart School Council. I get in trouble if I say I run it, because I don't run it, the children run. But so what we've tried to do with action teams is match the action team to the teacher who's in charge of that in the school. So if it's a reading action team, we send them to the English coordinator, or if it's a PE one, they go to the specialist PE teacher. And that's really helped, because then the teacher supporting them, and they can't run one without a teacher supporting them, is sort of enthusiastic about what they're doing. And that's definitely really helped as well. So if you can get your staff involved and sort of enthusiastic about action teams, and they don't really need much adult support, but they might just need someone to proofread a letter or print something off for them, or physically be in a room while they're having a meeting, not necessarily participating in it, but just being there to supervise them. So yeah, so that's my other top tip.
It's a great tip, and Devinda, I think, agrees. And so not only, Laurie, have you got live audience for pressure from Greg to come and run the CPD, but now Devinda wants you to do it as well. So there's absolutely no way out of this anymore.
No, well, I've got over my technology fear today, so I'll be fine.
You're doing a fantastic job. Yeah, don't worry. But yeah, I think Devinda, what you're sort of getting your finger on there is that Laurie and her school have got a particularly fantastic iteration of Smart School Councils, and have got a lot of learning that we can all, I think, glean bits from for ourselves. So it would be great, Laurie, and thank you for agreeing to come along and help us run that CPD, which won't be long. For those of you who maybe don't know or weren't here last week, we're running a CPD program online across the summer term, sort of focusing on a different element of how to run your Smart School Council, to give everybody a bit of a boost, free to access, to help you to be ready to get up and running again in September. So thanks for that, Laurie. Last change of gear now is to move on to Home Debate Club. But before I do that, we should say, shouldn't we, Greg, that if anybody out there wants to come and join us on one of our members' meetups, to do what Laurie's done today and have a bit of a spotlight on our members and what they've been up to, please let us know, because we really enjoy it, don't we, Greg?
Yes, we really enjoy it. It's these Friday afternoon kind of moments of chatting to the teachers and that we work with is something to look forward to after a busy week. So yeah, if anyone else is interested, come and chat to us. It's very relaxed, and I think everyone's doing a great job today. I am in my head though. I'm trying to persuade myself who's got the comfiest couch behind you, Sarah Jane and Laurie. Yours looks very comfortable, the blue one, but Sarah Jane, I think it's a big reclining one you've got there. I think you might have.
It reclines quite a lot, yeah.
What I would say is that when we were checking the tech was working this morning, I got Greg a little glimpse of Molly, who sent us in her mission from last week, and that was a highlight of my day. She was gave me a quick hi, didn't she?
She's been walking past, checking.
Can I just say one thing about our next cohort of schools, Sam? Is that okay?
Yes, please.
So, so we're trying something new with new schools, basically. In the past, and I'll try and keep this to a minute because we're running a little bit over time. In the past, schools have just joined any time, but we think there's value in schools joining and working together as cohorts. And one of the things that we're recruiting for at the moment is our first kind of test cohort, which we're calling the Mandela cohort, because Mandela also believed that everyone's voice should be involved. And so that's what we're calling it. And we're looking for 10 schools who are going to start the cohort on June the 1st. Our idea is that lots of schools who start before summer and lay some of the foundations for a Smart School Council before summer are ones that are more likely to have success because they've got those in place before what happens after summer. And of course, this year that might be even more of a busy and frantic period than normal. So if anybody is interested in who's not a member, who's interested in joining, then go to our website and check it out. But also members who are already on the program, please mention it to any teachers or other schools that you know. I'll post the link to the page on our website, but also if you're using Twitter, there's a tweet on our Twitter page, which please could you retweet. It's a strange time to be promoting things to schools. So, and one of the best ways for us to be doing it is through members and teachers who value what we already do. So, sorry to be the kind of salesy guy, but we think it'd be really good if we could work with some new schools a little bit over the summer term to get things set up for next year. And I think that cohort model might be a good way to build a bit of a group feel and support the schools through it. So feel free to check it out. I'll post the links in a second.
Brilliant. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, that's a really good update. And hopefully that's something that some of our members can help us out with. So, yeah, very conscious of time, but let's do our final item, I guess, if you want to call it that, which is to talk a little bit about Home Debate Club and what we've been up to. So I'm gonna shut up for a while, which is novel, and I'm gonna ask Sarah Jane to, in your own words, explain what Home Debate Club is, if that's okay.
So I sort of wanted to summarize it quite small. Really, it's a very safe, secure and supported environment where children can express their views. It's enabling them to do so much. But yeah, that was my short summary.
I like that. Yeah, Greg, what do you think of that summary?
That's great. We go on a bit much, so it's nice to have somebody on who doesn't.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Cool. So, sorry, I've got a bit of a tickle in my throat. Excuse me. Right. So, what have we been up to this week? This week, and lots of you will know this already, we asked you who've been involved and our members to send out the links to one class in school, or for some people, their communications team. And we had a go at running them with those. So a bigger test, I guess, but only involving one class in school. If you weren't around for it, and you didn't see it, I think Greg's going to put a link to it in the comments box any moment now, and you can go and watch the past sessions on homedebateclub.com and see how we got on. I think the running score, Greg, just for everybody to know, is 3 wins for Sam, 1 draw and 1 win for Greg. Just saying. No comment. All right, no comment. Fair enough. So, Sarah Jane, let's ask you a couple of questions. You've been involved in this from the start. So, how have you found it so far?
It's been really exciting to see how it's evolving each time. You're sort of listening to the feedback, you're adding bits in and keeping the bits that are working, and it's really slimlining it. It's just been great to kind of see that how quickly it's tuning up. And yeah, it's a really exciting project.
Nice, thank you. Glad that you think that. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about sort of both with your teacher hat on and with a parent hat on. So parent one first. So how have you found it as a parent with Molly and the things you've been doing together?
So Molly doesn't go to my school, so they have a traditional school council at her school. She really enjoyed leading the session. She needed that structure. She needed the modelling. She needed those sentence starters. But she felt really important, and she felt valued, and she felt that she was listened to. And I think for the first time in a while, she wanted to do that extra bit of work on it. She felt that she was motivated to do that. And it's quite hard watching week 6 or whatever it is we're in now, week 7, when they're doing their home learning, actually that motivation is going now. So it was lovely to see her, right, well, I'll write a speech. So she really felt part of it, and she felt that there was some action taken from her view.
And it was
she actually persuaded me. Yeah. She persuaded me to change my mind. So yeah, she's quite good.
No, absolutely. That's great. And then with your teaching hat on, then sort of what are your thoughts about being able to sort of facilitate that for maybe some of your pupils in school?
The feedback I've got so far from the children and the parents has been amazing. The children really felt that they were listened to and they were valued and they were important. I think that was the main thing. They really felt that they were being listened to, because at the moment they feel that they're not. And it was a really relevant topic, obviously. And they are just desperate to hear the next one. The parents actually felt so much more engaged in their learning because they weren't a teacher. They were just being part of a debate, part of a discussion. And it gave them access to actually just a really nice environment where they could discuss those things. And it took the onus off the parents because, like we've said, they are busy with their jobs or their other children. And actually, a lot of the parents took time out and said, no, we're doing this. And they thoroughly enjoyed it.
Nice, because they can be really tricky conversations to have, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was such a good topic to discuss in a really safe way with the children. I know that I felt safe talking to Molly about the situation, and I didn't feel that I had to hide my opinion. It was a safe place to say, well, actually, I think this. And I felt the children, the ones that I've spoken to about, all felt that as well.
And it's evidently something that sort of is resonating with others who've done the trial as well. Thank you, Devinda, for your comment. Definitely, my parents loved hearing their children's views. It is about, I guess, for some, we can't assume, and this is something I think that Greg and I have had on our mind all the way through, we can't assume that every parent knows how to have those types of conversations or feels comfortable doing them. So supporting them to do that, giving them the structure, I think maybe is something that people are finding so far, which is fantastic. All right, well, we've got some general questions as well that have come up from this week's trial that I think Greg and I are going to pose to to Laurie and Sarah Jane on the panel, but also to you guys out there as well. So please feel free to respond to these questions. Let's just have a quick look at what Andrea said. So the big topics are important and some parents tend to avoid them. Yeah, this is absolutely the case, isn't it? And normally where those topics would be being, I guess, addressed in school through the pastoral curriculum or through PSHE or whatever it might be, the absence of that now is what I guess Home Debate Club is trying to fill. So a couple of general questions. So if you're watching out there and you took part this week, send us a comment in, tell us how you got on. But we also want to know a couple of other things. So I'm going to direct this question at the panelists here, and then we'll see if people answer it as well. So Laurie, Sarah Jane, whoever wants to answer it first, would it be good for you guys to know how many of your students are getting involved? Because at the moment we can't tell that. Is that something you think you'd value?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
I had to phone round and find out, but it'd be still good to know.
Yeah, okay. And why, I mean, I guess this might be an obvious question, but why is that something you guys are really keen to know about that process?
For me, I want to provide the children, because I know I can see their little faces and I know exactly what they'd be standing up and doing if I had them in class, and I want to provide them with those opportunities at home, because I don't know how much access they're getting to home learning at the moment. And it's difficult because I know they can do it. So I want them to be able to.
Yeah, sure. Laurie, anything to add on that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And also, if we sort of knew the numbers, I know we can't always know the names necessarily, because I know one of my children was logged on as his parent on YouTube, so it took me a while to figure out which child it was. But then it almost could give us the opportunity to target those children who we think would really benefit from it, but aren't necessarily engaging with maybe a phone call or an email directly to them, rather than just a link on the website or a whole email to everyone. A more personalized one might encourage them more to take the time out to do it. So I think that could be helpful as a teacher. That could be helpful.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. So by way of answering this, because I can see that Susan and Devinder again are saying that this is something they agree with you guys on. It's something that we're aware of and we're conscious of, aren't we, Greg? There's kind of a way around it at the moment, which is by saying, well, if we direct people at the end to give us some feedback through the feedback form on the website, and they put their names into that, then we have a record of who is getting involved. Now, that's assuming that people feel like they are happy to fill out feedback forms, which of course everybody may not be necessarily. But if we're encouraging people to do that, then I think it's fine, isn't it, Greg, from our perspective, to share that with individual teachers to let them know if their schools are popping up and which pupils might be getting involved.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely, if they let us know the school that they're from, then we're happy to kind of give people an idea of the numbers that are coming through. But I mean, the whole concept at the heart of what Home Debate Club is that it's just super easy for people to access. They just need to go to the website and use it. So I think that's our starting point. How do we make it really, really easy for people to do? And because if there's lots of logins and complicated things, then parents just may not bother. So I think the tracking is a challenge for us later down the line, but I'm happier with it being easy to access, particularly for those who maybe don't have 3 laptops at home or that kind of access. So yeah.
Cool. Again, very conscious of time, so I want us to skip to a question that is a burning one for Greg and I right now, which is, so we moved the timings of the debates for this week, and many of you will know this because you got involved. The primary one was moved to 10:30 in the morning, and the secondary one was moved to 4:30 in the afternoon. Now, the theory behind that was that for primary young people, it's when they might engage a bit more in a lesson type activity. And for secondary young people, it was a time when they might be able to access their families a bit more than, say, during the day if they've got people working from home. And that might encourage more to get involved. Now, I think we'd like to ask you how you think that went, because we've got our opinions. We think generally it went well. But what we did find is that we didn't quite have as much interaction or engagement with secondary pupils as we had anticipated we might. So I guess we want to ask you guys about timings and your thoughts on them, and maybe whether if 4:30 is the worst time in the day to try and get young people to sit down and talk about a debate at any point at all. So yeah, I'll come to the panel first. Let's go to Sarah Jane first. Yeah, how would you answer that question?
I think on a personal level, working from home, homeschooling, I think your mornings are quite planned out, but by the afternoon, so many things can go wrong by then, and you've changed direction, and it can get missed off. That can wait. And I know obviously it was a live debate, but it can get pushed to the side because of whatever's happened that morning. There's all sorts of things that happen during the day that really aren't expected, and you just need to adjust quite quickly the intended plan that you had. So I think mornings are better.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I have to say, as obviously I'm not a secondary school teacher, but I have 4 children at home who I'm homeschooling who are secondary school age, and they work really hard in the mornings. They get through their schoolwork. We have a late lunch. Once lunch is done, they pretty much don't really want to engage or think about anything to do with school. So although later in the day might be useful in terms of parents engaging with them, I think in terms of getting the children engaged, they are more motivated and sort of on task in the morning. So maybe a secondary school one closer to around lunchtime, because the hard thing for me is my children have to follow the timetable of what they're meant to be doing in school. And particularly one of my children, who is very a rule follower, he probably wouldn't deviate from his timetable from his school to break and do it. So it would almost be how that fit in around that. I do think it's slightly easier with primary school children than secondary, as a parent personally.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because one of the things we thought originally was that if we moved it earlier in the day, it might be more likely that secondary school pupils are going to be on their own working on a tablet or on their own working on an iPad, and they don't need much interaction with the people around them. And that's why later in the day might have been a better idea. But I think Andrea does a good job of summarizing it there in her comment, which is, yeah, maybe it does at 4:30. You're thinking, well, look, I haven't got to do this anymore. The day's over. And I'm going to go and play Minecraft or whatever. That's as culturally relevant a reference as you're going to get from me, by the way.
No secondary school child plays Minecraft.
All right, yeah. Okay. Blame me now, Laurie. That's fine. Cool. I think that makes sense. Greg, anything that you want to add into any final questions? Because I think I'm done on my part before we wrap up.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think like Sarah Jane said, it's a process of kind of tweak it each week, and I feel like we've got further quicker with the primary, possibly because we've got way more primary members. So maybe it's just a kind of we've got all that feedback to benefit from. But I think it's just, we're doing our best, and I think over week to week we'll keep improving it, and I'm sure we'll find a time where we can crack that dynamic in a household with loads of secondary kids, because it's just a bit more difficult, I think, for us to anticipate. But yeah, no, that's really useful thoughts, I think.
Yeah, thank you for all of your thoughts. And just I just wanted to also reference the fact that the other big theme that we got from our feedback this week was about comments and having to sort of watch and vote on Home Debate Club on one tab, but then only be able to comment if you're watching on YouTube on another, so you've got multiple windows open. We're very aware of that. It's something that is difficult for us to find a way around, but we're working on it. So I'm sure that some people were sitting at home thinking, oh, you're not talking about the comments thing, because that's a big part of our feedback. We're aware of it. We are looking at it. So please rest assured by that. So what do we want from you guys then for next week? Greg, it's exciting, isn't it? And we've taken 50 minutes to get here, but do you want to let everybody know what we're doing next week?
Yeah. So now, next week, we feel like we've got the format tuned up enough, as Sarah Jane put it, which is a nice expression. And we want to open it out to any member school, as many pupils as you want. So just go for it. Just send it out to as many parents, carers, families as you want to. Go for it. We built this thing. We might as well share it with your schools. And I think the last few weeks have been really good at improving and tweaking it, but now I think we feel confident that feel free to ask as many of your pupils' families to get involved, and the way that you do that is just send them the link, homedebateclub.com. We're seeing that there's quite a bit of interaction in the Facebook group, so for parents and families to join, there's a closed Facebook group that I know some people have been using. So you could also direct them to that if they want to see, for example, the clues. So we're posting clues to next week's question. The secondary question is amazing. The primary question is also amazing. So the Facebook group's quite good to see the clues and the missions and things like that. But please just feel free to share with your parents. That's the message from us for next week.
Yeah, that's it. As far and wide in your school community as you like. We've gone quite cryptic with the clues this week. We've gone up a level. They're going to be harder to work out. So hopefully there'll be a level of challenge in there as well. So that's it. So it's definitely 10:30 for primary next Wednesday. There's a possibility we'll review the secondary one and the timing of it, but we'll do that as soon as possible to give people notice. That's our call. So it's a big week, and hopefully we'll get your support in that and send it out as far and wide. Is that something that our panelists are going to be happy to do? Laurie, Sarah Jane, you're happy sending it out to as many people as you can?
Yeah, definitely.
Can't wait. Yeah.
Cool. Amazing. Right. Well, I think that's it from us. So is it anything else to finish with, Greg? But I think that's us.
So two more things for me. Sorry, I'll be really quick. It's another cheeky request for me, I'm afraid. Sorry, guys. So we'd love it if you. So presumably, some of you, hopefully, a lot of you are enjoying being members of Smart School Councils. And one thing that we're trying to do with this, we've got a bit more time on our hands at the moment, is to get some new members for next year. And so one thing I would like to ask you to do is to do one of two things. Either write us a review on our Facebook page saying what you think of being a member and if you value it and what you like about it. There's a recommendations bit if you just look on our Facebook page. Or secondly, could you please leave us a Google review, because these things matter when teachers are searching for us. And I'm not going to tell you what to say. You can make up your own mind what you'd like to say. But I feel slightly uncomfortable being British making this request. But I've decided to be brave with this one. So I will post a link to which is just a one-click link. If you'd like to post a review on Google, then that's the link that you would follow. And Facebook is just on the page. So feel free, or hopefully you can do that. It should just take a minute or so. Cool.
I think that's really important. It's important for us. It's important for us to help grow our impact and to give more schools the opportunity to have the benefits that you guys hopefully experience. I'm going to be more Welsh about it and say, we're great, and you should tell everybody we're great. So please do that for us. That would be really great. So thank you very much. Really appreciate you and your time this afternoon. It's been a bit longer than we are normally. Sorry about that, but hopefully there was a lot in there this week. Lots of things to glean and to take away, and some things that we're going to ask you to do to help us out as well. So thank you very much to Laurie and Sarah Jane for your time and for joining us. Really, you did a fantastic job. And hopefully we'll see lots of you again for Wednesday and the debates, and definitely for next Friday and our next meetup. So stay safe out there, and thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.